I'm AC Brown, and you're listening to Is My Aura On Straight, a podcast designed to help you start living from your core instead of your conditioning. Each week, we'll discuss topics ranging from human design, astrology, metaphysics, spiritual self-development, and everything in between. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Is My Aura On Straight. I am your host, AC Brown. I am your spiritual doula, intuitive strategist, and human design expert, and I am also an entrepreneur. And I want to thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Is My Aura On Straight. And today is the first episode for I'm not sure how many part series of the relationship series for human design. So you all been waiting for it. So here's the first episode. So I want to thank you so much for joining me. Get your notepads out, or I don't know where you listen to this, but it's going to be a great episode. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about what each aura type needs. As far as romantic relationships and just relationships in general. It's just a general overview. So if you work with or if you love a particular aura type, this is what they will need from you as their counterpart, regardless of what your aura type is. We'll get into those pairs and combinations and the episode after this. So this episode is just going to be about if you love or like or are working with a particular aura type, you will need to do the following. And I want to give a disclaimer, of course. This is just my thoughts and opinions based off my study, research, all of that stuff, especially for the next episode when I tell you guys my favorite pairings and why. I don't want to get any hate mail or, that, oh, well, I'm with such and such and you're wrong. And hey, it's general. It's just my opinion. So that's really it. And also too, when it comes to aura types, there's so many other factors. And I also like to say to people, if someone's an asshole or if they are emotionally, physically, or mentally abusive, who gives a shit what their aura type is? Don't stay in a relationship with them regardless of their gender. So do not do that. And that goes for anything. That goes for astrology, whatever. I don't care how compatible y'all are. If that person's an asshole, let them be an asshole in their own little world without bothering you or tearing you down. So that's my disclaimer. And just one other point. This is general. I can't possibly see everyone's chart. I'm going to put in the link in the bio if you guys are interested in recorded relationship readings. Totally. I'll put the link in the bio. I do them when people ask me to. I don't have them advertised. So I figured since I was doing the relationship series, I'll advertise them and just put the link in the bio for people who I've done a ton of them. They're just recorded and I just take your chart, your partner's chart, and ask for a little bit of information. And then you get a 30 to 45 minute reading on the two of you. So I'll put that link in the show notes if you're interested in that. So let's get started. So like I said, this is just about what each aura needs from you. If you are in love with them, if you like them, if you work with them, if you're planning to do business with them. So of course we're going to start with generators. I'm going to just go in order because that's easier and you can't cut out if you're a generator first because I'll talk about some information later on. But anyway, so if you love, like, or are crushing on, or if you want to do business with or you work with a generator, some of the things that you need to know about them is, number one, you need to be okay with them needing you. Because generators are, of course, looking for external responses, they're going to need you. And tomorrow we'll talk more about the combinations and how they fare with each other. I'm just going to give general bullet points and overviews. Some of the other things that you need to also know if you are in love with a generator is that you need to respect their plateaus, especially for my people in long-term relationships with generators who have not, I don't want to say found their mastery or are in the midst of their mastery, but if you are involved with any type of generator, whether it's a coworker, a partner, whatever, you have to respect that plateau that they have, because that is a very tough time for them. As you heard me say previously in other episodes, the plateau it's a hard place for a generator to be, because they feel like nothing's working. They feel like their life is falling apart. They feel like their life is in shambles. They feel like, just everything's not going right, because they're in this plateau where they need to reevaluate, recenter, refocus, get clarity on the things that they're doing. So you're going to have to respect that. Also, when they are in those plateaus, you cannot take their frustration personally. You cannot let internalize that. And that is hard, because if you're in relations with someone or in business, or if it's a close friend and they're in a plateau, their frustration can sound like Debbie Downer all the time. And so that's hard as a friend of any aura type that you are. That's hard to deal with someone who's constantly in this state of frustration. And they're just like, oh my God, my life is not working for me. Why isn't this happening? So your job really, and I hate to say give you a job for whoever's on the opposite side, is just to make sure you are encouraging them, making sure you're telling them to keep on going, making sure you are explaining to them that, this is what happens. Things take time. They're on this journey to mastery. So it's going to be a lot of ups and downs, highs and lows. And so, be a support system to generators when it comes to that. Another thing that you need to know is that I've experienced this with being in a relationship with a generator. Don't ask them a lot of questions. And I know that sounds crazy, but what I mean by that is, because they are there to respond, right? Ask them one question at a time. Really, don't over flood them with questions like, why did you do this? How come this? Blah, blah, blah. Give them one question. Let them respond to that. Let them thoroughly respond to that. Then move on to the next question, because it's going to be a battle of trying to communicate with them that is just going to be really unnecessary. It's going to be extremely unnecessary, and you don't want to do that. So just give them one question. Ask them that question, and then wait for them to respond. And no, it sounds very, very childish, and simple, but it really is that simple for them, because they can't be overwhelmed with constant questions. So if you're involved with a generator, especially a generator man, do not ask him tons of questions, especially if the questions are questioning his sacral center, questioning his sacral response to what he's doing. Meaning, as you know, the sacral center is if it's a hell yes or hell no. It's never a hell maybe. So once they have made that decision of following that sacral gut for them, don't ask them questions that are questioning that, because that pisses them off. And I'm not saying you should walk around on tiptoes for generator men, but it confuses them, because they are already struggling. In generators in general, they're already struggling with trusting themselves, trusting their sacral center as it is. So, and if you as their partner come behind after they've made that decision of trusting their sacral center, they are like, OMG, now they're questioning my choice. And so you have to be very careful about that, and just be a little bit kinder about that. I'm not saying walk on tippy toes, like I said, just be a little bit kinder. Also, too, if you love, like, or involved with friends, business partners with the generator, make sure you assist them with their, yes or no's, with their hell yeses or hell no's. And what I mean by that is make sure you are assisting them with really figuring out what they want. So if you're in that getting to know you phase, whether it's a friendship, romance, business partner, ask them, do you like going to the meetings? Do you like leading the meetings? Would you prefer us doing conference calls? Or if it's a generator friend, do you like going to the club? Make sure you're asking them those really good key questions. So not only are they knowing more about themselves, you're learning how to interact with them as generators in relationships, because I see it all the time. I have, generators friends who particularly don't like, they don't like clubs, but they like lounges, or, they would prefer to go to a smaller, type of restaurant on a Sunday than go to a big brunch at a more popular restaurant in DC or something like that. So it's really about you asking them questions. What they like are really helping you interact with them better and helping you guys have a better relationship, whatever type it is, platonic or romantic. So those are some key tips for generators. Also, one other thing that I want to add for generators is that you need to be comfortable with them in their mastery. And what I mean by that is, because generators are here to master something over time, they're going to seem, and depending on when you meet them in life, they're going to seem like there's nothing else to them but that one particular thing that they're doing. So whether it's like a teacher or a doctor or, an accountant or someone who works at an office, whatever the case may be, you have to be comfortable with their mastery at that particular time that they're in. It's the same with, of course, respecting their plateau. You have to be comfortable with their mastery. And that is sometimes challenging for the opposite side, especially if the other person's not a generator, because they seem like that's all that there is to them, or they seem like that's all that they're doing. But you have to understand and respect that mastery for them, because that is part of their life. So they're going to maybe have the same job for a long time, or the same career trajectory for a long time. So like I said, it really depends on when you meet them in that particular time in their life. So just keep that in mind. Now we'll move on to manifesting generators. So manifesting generators, if you love, work with them, want to be friends with them, what are some of the things that you need to do for them? Of course you need to, because they're manifesting generators. Remember, they got a little bit a manifesting generator, but a whole lot of generators. So, it's like, I got a little bit of Italian, I'm a little bit Indian in my family, whatever. That's how it is for them. So they got a little bit of manifesting. So what you need to do with them is, and this is gonna, when they're in those spinning cycles of doing all the things, leave them alone. Let them spin their wheels. Let them live their life like it's golden. Let them do all the things. Let them do their multitasking. Let them seem like they're all over the place. Leave them alone. Don't interrupt that, because they got a little bit of manifesting. And because what happens when you interrupt them, they're going to bite you like a rabid dog. They're going to be like, "Arr, arr, arr," like, get out my way, leave me alone, you're interrupting me, I'm trying to get this done, I'm trying to do this. And you're going to have to learn how to not take that personally. Manifesting generators have this tunnel vision. It is an unfortunate thing, because they need to slow down so they can listen and honor their sacral centers, which a lot of them don't until they get a little bit older, in their 30s maybe, 30s and 40s. But because they are in that constant spinning cycle of getting things done, doing things all the time, constantly going, you cannot take it personal when they don't need you, or you see, or you assume they don't need you because of the way that they're doing things. They are constantly going. They are constantly doing stuff. So don't take it personal with them. Just, inform them and then ask them, how would you like me to, I would like to do this for you. Can I? That's a good way for a manifesting generator when you are interrupting their busy, creative flows. Say, hey, it looks like you're stressed out. I would like to, take you out on a date. Can I take you out on a date? Informing them and then asking them. Another thing that you need to do is manifesting generators, when they're in this cycle of doing stuff, whether it's work, school, creative projects, they become a little bit private, and it's not privacy because they're secretive. It's a privacy because they're really moving so fast that they just don't have time to tell you all the details. And so you have to respect that privacy. You have to understand that they are, they're not doing it on purpose, So just understand that. You also have to learn how to trust manifesting generators. Now, for me, that is hard. Being in relationship majority with manifesting generators, and it's not like, oh, I just don't trust you. It is because of the way they think, their minds, that constant cycle of, going and doing so many things. It's more not necessarily trusting them than saying like, oh, they're going to cheat on me, or they're going to steal from me, or anything like that. It's more about, can I trust you with my emotions? Can I trust you with my feelings? Because you don't even look like you have time for yourself. So how can I trust you with the things that I need you for as my partner, as my friend, etc.? So you're going to have to learn how to trust them if you are involved with the manifesting generators. And the same goes for them as pure generators. Don't ask too many questions. But there is a little bit different. They are constantly going so much, and they constantly have so much going on. They just can't comprehend all of that coming at them. So slow that down for them. Ask them one question at a time. The same with generators. Another thing that you want to really keep in mind, because they move so fast, and this never fails, people who are in relationships with manifesting generators, people who are in business partners with manifesting generators, other people can see their mistakes coming because they move so fast. Other people can see like, oh, this sounds like it's going to be a train wreck, or this looks like it's going to be a train wreck. Oh, she's missing details there because they're moving too fast. Let them make their mistakes. Let them, not because you want to see them fall on their face, or because you don't believe in them and you're just like, oh well, look at her just out there looking like a fool. It's not that. It's not that you want to do that. It's more because they need to see what it looks like when they don't slow down. Manifesting generators, it is a highly common thing for them. And I talked about this in other episodes, how they find shortcuts to mastery, which is great. That's what they're here to do. But sometimes those shortcuts leave out key details, and other people notice that, and they can see that train wreck happening. And in some cases, if you don't have a receptive manifesting generator, they're going to get mad at you for interrupting them. They're going to get mad at you for trying to help them. So if that's the case, let them fall. Not on purpose, but so they can see their consequences. So they can see, this is what happens when I don't slow down and listen to my sacral center. This is what happens when I don't pay attention to the details because I just want to get it done. Let them fall. Let them do that. Another thing too that is going to get that is super frustrating for people who are involved with manifestation. That's why I pray, like, God, please send me a generator husband. I'm just like, please send me a generator husband. I'm begging you. Because they have this whole, like, you're going to get to a point in the relationship with them, and especially for my non-sacrals, my reflectors, projectors, and manifestors. That's why sometimes we'll get into that tomorrow. I'm not going to get into this episode. Sometimes it's challenging for my non-sacrals to be involved with manifesting generators, because there'll come a time where either we're going to be really forcing ourselves to keep up with them, and that becomes very stressful for other people. And I've even seen that with manifesting generator relationships. So it's going to be either you keep up with them, or you just allow them to move forward without you. And that at times can be very challenging for the other person. Manifesting generators, I love them. There's nothing, I've had my fair share of experiences and heartbreaks with them. And there's nothing wrong with them. It's just these tweaks that you have to keep in mind when it comes to manifesting generators. So it's either you're going to keep up with them in their speed, which is, it's hard to do. I have friends and people who I work with. It's like, just who I partner with things, and clients who are manifesting generators. And I'm always joking, like, well, I know you're going to finish this tonight, and it's just, or because they just move fast. That doesn't make it right. That doesn't mean that they're doing anything magical. They just have that way to produce stuff. So it's either you're going to keep up with them, or you're just going to allow them to move a little bit faster than you. And that's okay. You don't have to keep up with them. So another thing that I want to also reiterate when it comes to that keep up or let them, you have to really know if you want to appreciate them and honor them at the speed that they go. If you can love them at that kind of speed, if you can love them with knowing they're always going to be into something. That's one of the most common issues when people ask me couple relationships is, the manifesting generator is always the one, I don't want to say progressively ahead of the other person, but it feels like to the other person that they're going to be left behind, because that manifesting generator is always into something. And I always assure them, I said, just let them spin their wheels, because that's sometimes what they're doing. And I'm not saying that all manifesting generators spin their wheels a lot, but sometimes that's just what they're doing, because they have the capacity to be involved with a lot of things. And that's okay. That doesn't make them love you any less or think that you're inadequate, compared to them. That's just how they operate and move, that they're always that person who is at that event doing the things, wanting to be seen, go out, meet people. That is them. So just keep that in mind. So next we're going to talk about projectors. Oh, my projector boos. Hey. If you love a projector, if you are friends with a projector, if you do business with a projector, give them a hug. No, there's just some things that, one thing that you should definitely do, is allow them to express themselves. That's one of the main things. Allow them to talk. Most projectors, and this is just me being a projector my whole life. My whole life I had to fight. Sorry. Side little reference. If you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. Being a projector, I need to talk not necessarily for other people to understand or comprehend what I'm saying. Majority of the case, projectors need to talk just so they can hear what they're saying out loud. So if you are around a projector and your projector friend or boyfriend, girlfriend has like so much on their mind, just listen. Not to respond, not even to respond, just to listen to them, because they just need to hear themselves talk so they can work out what they're trying to figure out by talking. I hope that makes sense. Just let them talk. Just let them get it out. Just let them talk. Another thing too that I used to really struggle with in relationships is, especially me being an emotional solar plex authority, and this goes for projectors across the board. If you are involved with a projector, business wise, anything love, as you know, I'm not going to keep on saying that. Sorry, guys. Honor their waiting. Honor that. And what I mean by that is there will be times in relationships where, my ex would be like, oh, I want to talk about it now. And I just be like, I would be silent because I literally at that moment didn't have anything to say. But then the next day, after I had processed everything, after I had thought about it, after I had just, processed my feelings, my emotions, and, that whole waiting out the petty period got back to them, I had tons to say. And, one of my exes he just wouldn't understand. He was like, you have so much to say. Wow, you have all these thoughts about this. Why didn't you have the thoughts yesterday? And that's just because we don't. Sometimes in that moment, we don't. So if you are, in a relationship, whatever kind of relationship with a projector, you need to allow them and respect that cycle about the waiting. Because once we get recognized, or the acknowledgement or the invitation is for us to do with it. And it's not being mean, but sometimes we do need to process things in our mind and get back to you. That's going to be important. So don't be upset if they can't respond, or I always say projectors, sometimes it looks like we don't know how to fight fair when it comes to like being in a relation with people. And it's not that we don't know how to fight fair. We are fighting to protect ourselves. And we just have a different style of fighting. So just keep that in mind. If you're involved with a projector, you need to also be okay with them needing you, just like a generator. And what I mean by that, needing you to invite them, to acknowledge them, to do all of that they need. With projectors, you need to make sure you recognize them, invite them, all of that stuff. Here's the big one. That is super important, and I can't emphasize this enough. If you are in relation with a projector, trust their insights. Let me repeat. Trust their insights. Let me repeat that again. Trust their insights, trust their intuition, trust what they see, trust what they hear, trust what they feel, trust what they say, trust the things that they have for you. Because 9.8 times out of 10, they are going to be correct. It is super important, and projectors hate when you don't trust them, when you don't value their insight. That is probably kryptonite for a projector. It sucks. That's why and I'll talk about that in the dealing with projectors in business and careers. That's why it's super hard for projectors to sometimes step into their own when it comes to entrepreneurship, self-employment, which is the same thing, or doing what they're called to do, because they have dealt with so many people not trusting the things that they hear, see, say, all of that, their insights. And that's really big for us. So keep that in mind. Trust their insight. Another thing for projectors that you need to do is, when we need space, give it to us and mind your business. Energy is super important. We can be drained. Sometimes we might want to go hang out all night, and then some nights we don't want to do anything. And for a manifesting generator, for sure, that is a challenge. But we'll talk about that next episode. But some projectors, you have to respect their energy. Non-sacral centers are operating on a way different wavelength than other people. So you have to respect that. Another thing is that you have to, I don't want to say accept, I want to say you need to, I I don't want to make it look like you have to be a built-in motivational speaker for a projector, but depending on where you meet that projector in their life, they might be dealing with bitterness. They might be dealing with a heavy cycle of bitterness, and you have to pick and choose if you want to deal with that. That's really all I can say, because sometimes that bitterness can result in a lot of struggle for them. And so you have to make that decision for yourself. And I'll go into when it comes to my favorite pairs. That's one of the reasons why I have certain favorite pairs than others, because of that bitterness. Women, it's a little bit more different than men. A bitter projector man, child. That is a lot to deal with. Whoa, that is a lot. So you just have to, pick and choose, that bitterness level, where they're at in their bitterness. So you have to understand that, because sometimes it can result in a lot of, just struggle for them. And one of the other things too, the final thing for projectors, is always remember that they just want to help you. Literally. It might not seem like that. It might seem like they're butting in, or who does this projector think they are? I didn't ask them for that. And they're just trying to help you. We're really just trying to help you. We really just want you to succeed, want you to be successful, whether it's in love, friendship, we just want you to see the light, to shine. And, sometimes, everybody doesn't get that. So just keep that in mind. So manifestors, manifestors, this is a hard one. I love my manifestor friends, love y'all to death, but manifestors can be a doozy. And like I said, next episode, I'll go into my favorite pairings. But manifestors, I don't want to say it's hard to love them, because it's not. No one's hard to love. Manifestors, there's just a lot of tweaks. Because manifestors, number one, like I told you with manifesting generators, they have this thing where, they don't need you. Manifestors truly don't need you. And not saying that they don't like you there or they don't want you there, but because they are, especially empowered manifestors who know about informing, who are aware that they're supposed to initiate, they don't really need you, because they can start creation, they can start all these things. So that's super important for you to know, that manifestors don't necessarily need you. They can just keep on doing what they want to do. Now, the issue is when they're in relations with other people, is that they have a definite problem with informing that, or getting, or letting their partners know that. That's a challenge for them, because their partners feel left out all the time. Their partners feel like, what is going on? Why don't you want me to help you? How come you're not asking me to help you, or anything like that? Also, the same rules apply when it comes to manifestors, just like manifesting generators, because of them moving so fast. You really have to keep up with them, or allow them to just go ahead, because they move so fast. And one of the key things that manifestors struggle with a lot is that they don't feel comfortable with being who they are. So it sometimes might take a little bit of time for them to warm up to you. And it's not about trust or anything like that. It's mostly about, can they be comfortable with the way they move, with informing, with initiating, with doing things fast without any backlash? Are people going to be okay with that? And that's something that is challenging for them when dealing with relationships, both, platonic and romantic. Can you be comfortable like that? Can you understand that they need that space to just initiate and just be and just do that, because manifestors don't like interruptions at all. So communicating with your manifestor is very important to find out what they need as far as their space is concerned. Really making sure that you understand how they operate, how their space is, all of that stuff. Because if you continue to force their interaction with you, it's going to be very frustrating for them. And that's something that you don't want to do, because you don't want to anger them, because their anger can be very nasty to the opposite person. And that's just not good for that's just not good for anybody. So last and not least, the reflector. If you are in a relationship, working with friendship, whatever, with a reflector, here are some things that you need to know about your reflector. First and foremost, because they have this 20-day waiting cycle to make decisions, it is best for you to not pressure them. Pressure is horrible for a reflector. It's very challenging for them. Pressure can be that's their kryptonite. So you have to just let them get back to you. Most reflectors are not going to wait 28 days for minor decisions. Major decisions, maybe. But for the little things that you feel that you may, I can make that decision at least tonight, they can't. It's going to take them at least 2 or 3 days. So you have to respect that. Also, it's super important for people involved with reflectors to make sure you respect their need for consistency. Reflectors thrive off of consistency. That's why, other podcasts have called them the model employee, because they can mirror anything. But their mirroring also comes at a price of consistency. It's a level of consistency for them to be consistent with routines, to be consistent with the way they do stuff, could be consistent how they work. All of that is important to them. So when it throws them off, it can break down their world. If you know a reflector, they usually like to get the kids off to bed at a certain time. They like to leave the house at a certain time. I'm not saying that all the aura types don't have that, but a reflector is really crucial for them to stick to that. So that's important for reflectors as well. Another thing, just like projectors, let reflectors talk. And it's also the same thing that reflectors and projectors need to hear what they're saying, not necessarily for you to answer unless they ask you, but more so they can process their emotions, their feelings in that moment. That is really important. The same, just like projectors, reflectors need to manage their energy in a certain way that is not conducive to everybody else. Especially reflectors are more susceptible to environments than projectors or manifestors and any other aura type. So when they say that they don't feel like doing something, they literally are at their breaking point and they don't feel like it. So you have to learn how to honor that energy and give them their space as well. Some other things, just like projectors, you have to be okay with them needing you, not on a dependency level, but just needing you around, needing you to be there, because that's really important. Something else that's really, really key for people who are in a reflector's life. Reflectors have a hard time. They can overlook environmental keys or nudges that make things unhealthy for them. So if you notice that your reflector friend or partner is, coming home, or every time you're around them, when they've been around a certain person, or they start a new job and all of a sudden their energy changes, please make them aware of that. Help them recognize that, because sometimes they can just be going with emotions to where they don't want to rock the boat because, they need the job or they need to show up somewhere. And you have to help them realize that, hey, this person, I think they're a little toxic for you, or I think that job is toxic for you. It looks like every time you go around here or you interact with this person or you walk down this particular street, you seem a little agitated or you seem a little, your energy changes, because sometimes they don't notice that because they're all up in the mix and they're always trying to be like the model citizen, the model person. So try and help them recognize it, not to point out the flaws or point out bad things, but just more as a, hey, did you notice that, ever since you stopped dealing with John, you've been much happier, So when he sends that text, don't answer it, that kind of thing. Also, it's for, when you're, if you want to help a reflector out, definitely really be okay with them. I don't want to say mirroring you, because that can happen. There are some cases where reflectors, reflectors, in my opinion, have a tendency to be a little bit codependent. It's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. But when they find something that they like to mirror, whether it's a partner or a friendship, they might rely on that other person a lot more than a normal person would. Of course, that's not healthy. But sometimes they might feed off of the energy and they might like it. If you are a manifesting generator and one of your best friends is a reflector, they possibly can love being around you so much because that energy that they get from you of being able to accomplish things, being able to do stuff faster, all of that stuff is helping them. So in a way, it might feel like, oh, they want to be around me all the time so much. This is annoying. And then, it feels a little codependent, and it's not necessarily that they're being codependent. It's just that they found something that they really enjoy mirroring. So take that as a compliment, but also manage it in a proper way, and reflectors try to manage that too. Because it's a great thing to see when I see a reflector who has found something or someone that they can mirror, and they're actually progressing in their life and they're not being disappointed by everything. It's a really nice thing to see. However, sometimes that mirroring can become very codependent, and I can't do this without finding out what this person says or what they think or what would they do, and they kind of get lost in that. So just keep that in mind. Also, for reflectors, recognize them. Make sure that you are allowing them to instill their wisdom in you. When you ask them for advice or you ask them what they're thinking, allow them to give their wisdom without any judgment. Allow them to talk when it comes to that. I'm going to talk more about reflectors as we get into the pairings, because reflectors really don't understand how good they have it. Time and time again, when I talk to reflectors, they always focus on, why do I have to wait 28 days? But reflectors really have an advantage that none of the other aura types do, and that is the mirroring. They can mirror whoever they want. So if they want to initiate one day, they can go ahead and do that. If they want to, master something, they can go ahead and do that. If they want to find a shortcut to mastery, all of that, they can mirror that. The 28 days, if they, wait 28 days and they find out they want to mirror Beyonce, then go ahead and mirror Beyonce and, work. The energy is not going to be the same, but they'll be able to mirror her the best way they can. So reflectors really need to pay attention to that. So if you are in relations or friends with a reflector, utilize them for their wisdom. Ask them questions. that are very introspective, that are very deep in thought, and they will give you amazing answers because they've been thinking about them. They can feel the energy. They're very intuitive people. They can feel what people need, what they want, and all of that. So just keep that in mind. So that concludes the first part of the relationship series. What do each aura type need in a relationship? Next, I'm going to talk about my favorite pairings in the next one. And then after that, I'm going to go into different other categories for being in relations, friends, etc. with other aura types. So I hope you enjoy this as well. And if you are interested in getting a relationship reading, definitely click the link in the show notes. And it's a between a 30 and 45 minute recording about you and your particular partner. And I'll get that out to you. I love doing those. And I'm looking forward to talking about my favorite pairings. And since you now have a prequel to what these relationships people need in relationships, it'll make sense to you why I have my favorite pairings when you listen to that episode. And it's not like I hate certain aura types because of my experience. This is just my experience based off of not my own personal experience, but working with other people and what I see and study and just the research that I've done when I see successful certain pairings as far as aura types. And of course, everybody's going to argue, well, you have to see their chart. Absolutely. You have to see their chart. You have to see what channels they activate together, what centers you activate. Because when I do relationship readings, or when you do relationship readings in human design, two people can activate centers. They can activate channels by putting the charts together. And that's why it is super important. And I'm going to talk about that in the next episode. We have to stop settling people. And that's for men and women, one and the same for all genders. Everybody wants to be loved, but it's really important to know how much these spiritual tools can help you, just maximize your relationship. Now, I'm not saying, oh, you gotta find somebody who has this particular thing in their chart and all of that stuff, because that's just unrealistic. Because there's no really bad stuff when it comes to human design or astrology or anything like that. It's just more like, hey, this could happen, or these are the chances of them being like this. And that's the same with human design. It's more of you just have a playbook of tools to say, when you come across this might happen, because you can't stop or help who you fall in love with. That is number one. Regardless if they are a manifesting generator and you're you can't help that. So just keep that in mind when you listen to that episode. And I'm going to say that again at the beginning of that episode. Don't get too bogged down with this, because some of the, couples that don't even make sense astrologically or human design, they work. You might be forcing it in some cases, but they do work. So don't be too crazy about that. But keep that, just keep that in mind when you listen to that episode. But if you have any questions about this episode, I'm going to be answering questions that people asked in the next episode. If you want to ask me a question, please send that in as soon as possible, and I will answer it, in one of the series. But until next time, have a great day filled with good vibes and great energy. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to another episode of Is My Aura on Straight. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at AC Brown, and also check out my website for products and services at www.acbrown.com. And until we meet again, make sure you have a great week filled with good vibes and good energy.